Today marks a significant moment in the ongoing legal saga of YNW Melly as the rapper faces a pivotal bail hearing. The court proceedings are centered around a defense motion to secure his release from jail, where he has been detained amid serious allegations. Melly's legal team has put forward what they describe as a robust release package, arguing that it meets all necessary conditions to allow the rapper to await trial outside of confinement. Their strategy hinges on two primary arguments: the alleged inhumane treatment Melly has endured in jail and new evidence challenging the prosecution's narrative of the crime for which he is charged. Meanwhile, the prosecution counters with evidence they claim demonstrates Melly's guilt and justifies his continued detention. This analysis explores the competing arguments, evaluates the strength of the evidence presented by both sides, and considers the broader implications for Melly's case. Melly's time in jail has been a focal point of his defense's argument, with claims that his treatment violates basic human rights. According to an interview with Melly's mother, Jamie King, the conditions her son faces are deplorable. She asserts that evidence exists showing he is not being treated as a human being, a situation she argues is illegal given that jails are obligated to protect their inmates. King's emotional recounting of Melly's own statements paints a grim picture. He has expressed being hurt and living in fear for his life. As a mother, she describes feeling heartbroken and helpless, unable to shield her son from the alleged mistreatment. She has called for an investigation into the Broward Sheriff's Office, accusing them of operating outside the law by creating their own rules. King notes that attempts to address the mistreatment in court have been stymied, as the judge reportedly lacks jurisdiction over jail operations. This lack of oversight, she argues, allows the jail to act with impunity, a situation she deems fundamentally unfair. The defense's first angle leverages these allegations of mistreatment to argue that Melly's detention is not only unjust but also illegal. By highlighting the inhumane conditions, they aim to persuade the court that keeping him in jail pending trial violates his rights. This argument is emotionally compelling, particularly given King's vivid descriptions of her son's suffering. However, its legal weight may be limited unless the defense can present concrete evidence, such as medical records, witness testimonies, or official complaints, that substantiates the claims of mistreatment. Without such documentation, the allegations risk being dismissed as anecdotal, though they undeniably humanize Melly and could sway public or judicial sympathy. The second prong of the defense's strategy revisits evidence from Melly's original trial to challenge the prosecution's version of events. The prosecution has alleged that Melly committed a double murder inside a Jeep, killing his friends Anthony Williams, YNW Sackchaser, and Christopher Thomas Jr., YNW Juvie. Melly's lawyers counter this narrative with GPS data from his cell phone provider, which they claim shows him sprinting down a street and hiding in a bush at the time of the crime. This evidence, they argue, supports Melly's account of being pursued in a drive-by shooting, not perpetrating a murder. In a recorded conversation, Melly reportedly told his mother that a car was chasing him, forcing him to hide, and he was unsure of the whereabouts of Sackchaser and Juvie. The defense bolsters this claim with additional trial evidence. No firearm was ever recovered at the scene. They argue this absence supports the drive-by theory, as the perpetrator could have fled with the weapon. This evidence is potentially powerful, as it directly contradicts the prosecution's theory of the crime. The GPS data, if verifiable, could place Melly outside the Jeep at the critical moment, undermining the claim that he was the shooter. The lack of a recovered firearm further weakens the prosecution's case, as it leaves open the possibility of an external assailant. However, the defense must overcome potential skepticism about the reliability of the GPS data and the absence of corroborating witnesses to the alleged drive-by. If the court finds this evidence credible, it could significantly bolster the case for Melly's release on bail by casting doubt on his guilt. The prosecution, however, is not without its own arsenal of evidence. They point to incriminating text messages found on Melly's phone sent hours after the crime. In one exchange, an account linked to PC Gambino asked Melly if he was okay, to which he replied, "I did that," followed by a smiley face emoji. A subsequent message from Melly's account, timestamped October 26, 2018 at 16:02 Eastern Standard Time, reads, "What after HH," which prosecutors interpret as further acknowledgement of his involvement. Additionally, they cite a video saved on Melly's phone from a Facebook live stream, recorded 6 hours after the murders. The video allegedly shows Melly and his co-defendant, Cortland Henry, YNW Bortland, dancing in a parking lot, displaying no apparent grief over the deaths of their friends. Prosecutors argue this behavior suggests a lack of remorse consistent with guilt. Perhaps the most damning new evidence comes from a rogue member of the Oblak group who claims Melly had a motive for the murders, a financial dispute with Sack Chaser and Juvie. According to this source, Melly confided to King Von before Von's death that the two victims were attempting to extort him. As YNW was a registered LLC, Melly and Bortland earned money through concerts, merchandise, and promotions, but Sack Chaser and Juvie reportedly demanded a share without contributing to the work. The source alleges Melly hinted at resolving this conflict violently, a secret Von later shared with Oblak members. This motive, if substantiated, provides a compelling narrative for why Melly might have committed the crime, strengthening the prosecution's case for keeping him detained. The prosecution's evidence is potent, particularly the text messages, which appear to directly implicate Melly. The "I did that" message, coupled with the smiley face, could be interpreted as an admission of guilt, though the defense might argue it was taken out of context or referred to something else. The video evidence, while circumstantial, paints Melly in an unsympathetic light, potentially swaying a judge or jury against him. The motive evidence, however, is less certain as it relies on hearsay from a deceased source. Its admissibility in court could be challenged, but if allowed, it adds a critical layer to the prosecution's argument. A particularly strategic move by the prosecution involves their plan to try Melly and Bortland together in the upcoming trial. This approach is designed to maximize efficiency and increase the likelihood of conviction by allowing the co-defendants to incriminate each other. The prosecution argues that both face capital charges, making a joint trial appropriate for the guilt phase. Even if the penalty phase differs, Melly faces the death penalty, while Bortland does not. This tactic exploits tensions between the two, as evidenced by their strained relationship. During the original trial, Melly's lawyers attempted to shift blame to Bortland, pointing to gunshot residue on his hands, his presence in the car with the victims' bodies, and his alleged lies to investigators. A forensic scientist testified that residue was present on Bortland's hands, lending credence to this theory. Bortland, in turn, has remained silent, but a cryptic tweet posted on the day of Melly's mistrial, "Mind games don't work on people like me," with a handshake emoji, suggests he may be open to cooperating with prosecutors. The prosecution's strategy is further bolstered by the involvement of Melly's ex-girlfriend, Mariah Hamilton. Recently arrested for fleeing the country to avoid testifying in the first trial, Hamilton was released after agreeing to testify against Melly. Disturbing evidence found in her iCloud account suggests Melly engaged in witness tampering, a charge that carries a life sentence regardless of the murder case's outcome. Prosecutors allege Melly used code words, such as Rihanna and Rocky's baby mom, to instruct Hamilton not to testify, communicating through intermediaries due to restrictions on his phone use. This evidence, uncovered partly through community tips and an investigation by Juvie's father, led to 6 new charges against Melly, including witness tampering and conspiracy. If convicted on these charges, Melly could face life in prison even if acquitted of the murders. The witness tampering allegations are particularly damaging, as they suggest Melly attempted to obstruct justice. The prosecution's claim that he used jail phones for this purpose explains why his phone privileges were revoked, countering his mother's complaints about unfair treatment. If the feds possess recordings or other evidence of these communications, it could be nearly impossible for Melly to refute. The defense might argue that the evidence was obtained unlawfully or that the code words were misinterpreted, but the specificity of the allegations makes this a steep hill to climb. Evaluating the strength of each side's evidence requires weighing both its legal and emotional impact. The defense's arguments about jail mistreatment and the drive-by theory are compelling but face challenges. The mistreatment claims, while sympathetic, need substantiation to influence a bail decision, and the GPS evidence, while potentially exculpatory, must withstand scrutiny regarding its accuracy and relevance. The prosecution's evidence, particularly the text messages and witness tampering charges, appears more concrete and directly incriminating. The motive evidence, though hearsay, adds a narrative that could resonate with a judge or jury. The strategic decision to try Melly and Bortland together further tilts the scales in the prosecution's favor, as it increases the likelihood of mutual incrimination. Ultimately, the prosecution's case seems stronger at this stage, primarily due to the directness of the text message evidence and the severity of the witness tampering charges. These elements not only undermine Melly's bid for bail, but also pose a significant threat to his overall defense. The defense's best hope lies in discrediting the prosecution's evidence or presenting irrefutable proof of the drive-by theory. However, the shadow of the tampering charges looms large, potentially overshadowing the murder case itself. For now, Melly's fate hangs in the balance, with the bail hearing serving as a critical juncture in a case that continues to captivate and divide observers.